Welcome back to Phantom Paranormal. I decided to go ahead and be a bigger person and not throw away all I've worked for over some rather disturbing stuff. I'm sure my friends in spirit would agree. What you see, girl. You guys, I've told you guys before, she is my spirit dog. She gets worked up if she sees something she doesn't like. Settle down, girl. Settle. She's standing over there. She's actually staring at me right now. She's smelling around. What you smelling? It's alright, go on. It's okay. She's very protective of me, guys. Hey, what you see? Guys, I'm gonna have to pause this so I can go put her out. Sorry. Yes, I do have activity here. Alright guys, I'm back. I had to go put her in the bedroom with my wife. She's quite the spirit-seeing dog. I got a lot of requests for people wanting to know what got me into the field of the paranormal. It's really a combination of several things. Experiences I've had. I broke down in a video not too long ago. I'm sure you guys remember. And told you guys about some of the child abuse I went through. It was a lot worse than regular child abuse. My father was very, very, very sadistic man. He, if was the devil, would fit that role perfectly. He loved to torture animals. He got pleasure out of torturing people and animals. It's what got him off, if you want to say it like that. He got his jollies like that. I started fighting for my life before I was even born. I am a what you call miracle setting here. My father was so sadistic, he starved my mother and wouldn't let her eat when she was pregnant with me. When he would go to work, he would literally chain the cabinets with the food in it locked and wrap a huge industrial strength chain around the refrigerator to starve my poor starving mother, just to be sadistic. So my great-grandmother would drive all the way across town every day. Thanks, guys. to bring her food. Uh, so she didn't starve. I don't know why she stayed there. Uh, the lady who ended up raising me, which would be her mother, loved me, but she was mentally abusive and physically abusive as well. So I think my mother just didn't want to go back home, and that was the deal. Well, when my, my dad, the night I was born, my dad would wear steel-toed boots, not like construction steel-toed boots, but cowboy boots with the real pointy tips with the steel on the toe. And he would put the steel on the bottom of the hill, I forget what it's called, a tap or whatever, to save wear and tear on the leather. Well, the night I was born, I was told that my father had my mother backed into a corner and he was repeatedly kicking her in the stomach, which brought on the labor. So I had to fight for life before I even got out of the womb. And that's just one out of many, 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 many stories. I never did get the answer why she left me with that monster, knowing what a monster she was, or he was. I grew up in fear every day that he was going to kill me, literally. I had bleeding ulcers in elementary school. Back in those days, they didn't know that much about it. They'd let me go to lunch 15 minutes early before everybody else, and back then they thought milk was good for ulcers, so they made me, with doctor's orders, I had to drink 2 cartons of milk before I ate my lunch. Now they know better that dairy sucks for ulcers. But anyway, so the night I was born so premature, I barely made it. He was kicking her in the stomach, and of course, it almost killed her and me. And I was born way premature, malnutritioned. My eyes weren't even developed fully. I was so teeny tiny, my mom tells me. She wore a size, I think, women's 4.5. Little tiny shoe. I was too tiny for a crib. My crib was a shoebox when I got home. Her shoebox. And they would put me in the shoebox in a dresser drawer. That's how tiny I was, and half shut the dresser drawer and lined the shoebox. I'm talking a lined shoebox, by the way. So going through those things, developed, I guess if you want to call it extrasensory. I won't ever claim to be psychic, but I will say that I have a specially sharpened intuition about things. I had to learn to survive. So my mom comes home from the hospital after having me, and my dad takes a pair of my mother's nylon hose off of her legs and wraps it around her neck and chokes her, is what I was told. Thank you, guys. and proceeded to take his pocket knife out and flick it open. He was a little man, a little teeny tiny, skinny, scrawny man. And he carried guns on him and knives all the time. I guess it made him feel like a big man. I don't know. But he flipped his pocket knife out and proceeded to rip my mother's surgical stitches they give women after they have babies. And proceeded to shove like 4 or 5 Alka-Seltzers, I can't remember the exact count, into my mother's downstairs parts, and proceeded to rape my mother in front of me as a first night back from the hospital. So at that point, my mom got enough and left. And then my dad remarried, got a stepmother, and she was an evil, evil woman. If she wasn't beating me, he was. So, off of that subject, there were times I would be beaten so bad I would have out-of-body experiences because my mind and my body just couldn't take it anymore. And I believe the source, God, whatever you want to call your higher power, pulled me, I would say an angel, pulled my soul out of my body, took me to a safe place to where I didn't have to feel it and deal with it anymore. A nice, warm, safe place. And I can still remember that. It was so vivid because it happened so often. And so I developed an extra, I don't want to say sensory, I don't know how to explain it. I'm not psychic. I mean, in a way, I know when certain things are about to happen sometimes, or I get certain real strong gut instincts that are pretty much right on. So, my first paranormal experience was when I finally got, back in those days, they didn't teach the children to tell the teachers if you were getting beaten on and stuff so they could, have the state come out or anything. And, back in those days, I reached out to a teacher that I really, really, really did trust. She treated me so good. Her name was Mrs. Harkey. I'll never forget her. She was a really nice old lady. And I reached out and I told her, my dad knew just where to beat me to hide the bruises. He would, his favorite place to beat me would be, he wouldn't just beat me with the belt, he would beat me with the great big cowboy steel belt buckle. And he would hold my legs down and beat my feet till they were black and blue. I'm now 33 years old, and sometimes bruises just pop up on my body, and they're called body memories. You might look them up sometime. They're very real. From your brain remembers, and I get bruises that just come up for no reason at all. So anyways, I guess I developed some kind of extra certain perception, whatever you want to call it, intuition. But my first paranormal experience was with my great grandmother. We were very, very close. My mother's mother raised me, but she worked during the day. So when I called her my baby grandma because she was a very little teeny tiny woman. She probably stood about 4 feet tall, and she was a very good Christian woman. But um, being a kid, you're a kid, you know, especially after the trauma I went through. I was always on my tippy toes about everything. So, what had happened was my grandmother worked, and I was a latchkey kid from kindergarten all the way through high school, pretty much. Uh, but me and my great grandmother were very, very, very close. And when she was born in 1900, I was born in 1972. She passed away in 1984. Well, for about a year, when I would come home from school towards the end of her life cycle, she, was ill. I was in elementary school, but took care of her the best of my ability being a kid. And, changed her bedpans and did everything I could for her. And I had no childhood whatsoever. So when she finally passed, of course, I'm the one that found her. Um, the house she lived in, I never did like it for some reason. Um, I always felt something wasn't right. She lived in not a Victorian home, just a home built probably in the early 40s. And I don't know what happened. I know that um, every family has its secrets, So, but I came home from school and found her passed away, which was another pretty traumatic thing for a kid to walk in on by himself with no support system around, and was smart enough to, and mind you, you know, I was a little kid, and so I called my grandmother at work, and she came, and they made the services and made the arrangements. She had a calico cat named Callie. It was my best buddy, and she would always wear those little cheap slip-on house shoes. Not the big fluffy kind, just the kind that were kind of like, I don't, kind of like baby's clothes material, wash rag material type stuff. She'd always wear those, and she had a little gas fireplace and a rocking chair, and she would sit in front of that. When she was elderly, every day she would sit in front of that rocking, or in front of that little gas stove, and warm her feet. Every day, every day, every day, every day. And the cat would lay across her house shoes. Every day, every day, every day. So, I remember, well, the thing is, we only lived, my mother's mother, my grandmother, we only lived one house away from her. There was a house in between us. So, my first paranormal experience basically went down like this. My grandmother wanted me to go over to her house, of course, being the demented lady she was at times. Like the night after she died, she wanted to send me over there to get some things for her. And of course, being a kid, I was scared to death. That was, I was always scared. But that was one of the times I was really scared. I didn't want to go over there where I just found my dead you know, baby grandma, I called her. And I didn't want to go, and I begged her and begged her and begged her to not make me go, and she fucking made me go. And so, being a kid, I ran over there. I flipped on every light in the fucking house I could flip on as fast as I could. I grabbed as much as I could. I grabbed everything she said she needed, and I was just about to walk out of the door, and I heard my first disembodied voice, and it was my grandma, my baby grandma. And she said my name clear as day. She just said, Michael. It didn't sound like, ooh, Michael. She just said, Michael. And people will say, oh, he was just a kid imagining things. Well, I didn't imagine it. I heard it clear as day. So, this is my first paranormal experience, and what goes along with it, back to the cat. She had, four, my great-grandma had four boys and one girl, being my grandma. And so they all had to come in from out of town and such for her, funeral and viewing and all that. And so, of course, they all stayed at her house, and which means I was forced to be over there yet even more. Well, her son, my uncle, put her house shoes in the top of the closet because the cat, Callie, was still laying across her house shoes every day. And he put her shoes up in a locked closet. The house was so old, I remember it had skeleton keys. And he put her house shoes up in a closet and locked the closet. And we went back over there, thanks. And we went back over there right after her funeral, because they were going to stay there a couple more days, before everybody headed out of town. Some way, somehow, that closet got unlocked. The door was wide open, and her house shoes were laid out right back in front of the little gas stove with the cat laying across her feet. Well, her house shoes. and we were all sitting out on the porch. There was no wind blowing, and we were just talking about her. I can remember all this just like it was yesterday. And she had an old rocking chair that was her mother's that she kept out on that front porch. And I was in the porch swing, but I wasn't like swinging hard enough to make a rocking chair rock. So the next thing that happened before everybody was going to head out of town was her rocking chair started rocking in front of everybody. Everybody saw it. And I was kind of relieved at that. And so that was my first paranormal experience, guys. So, one down, a few more to go. So before we go, I appreciate you guys lighting up the lights for me during this little talkie. I have a geophone set up here. Let's see if they'll touch it for me. Will you guys touch that blue screen for me? If you touch that blue, it'll beep. All you gotta do is thank you very much. Could you stop now, please? Would you please stop? I would appreciate it. I know it's fun, but I would appreciate it if you would stop. I'm asking nicely. I'm going to count to 3, and then I want you to stop. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. As you can see, if you don't stop, I'm not going to have any more sessions for a while. I don't know Morse code. Alright, guys. I physically got to stop it. I physically have to stop it because somebody's having a ball. Alright, guys, thanks for watching. So yeah, I've been curious about spirits a long time, my whole life, pretty much. Since 1984, that's when I had my first experience. Okay, guys, thanks for watching this little talkie. I appreciate you. Sorry I had a really effed up day today, and I didn't mean to take it out on you guys. I wasn't. I was just wanting to, well, we're not going to go there. Thanks for watching, guys. Can you tell them bye by lighting up the lights? Make them flash. Please. Oh, but you'll set off the Geo box, won't you? Yeah. Thanks, guys, for watching.